Hey, what's up, guys? Alex here, and today I have quite the headache, so I cannot work on any music really. But I thought of using this chance to take a little break and do a Q&A session with you guys, which is something I wanted to make, or I wanted to do since I got this new webcam here. So let's get started with the Q&A. And while I'm going to work on the Q&A, I'm going to work on this template because I noticed, or rather, someone on Reddit made me notice that my template had quite some flaws, which I'm going to tell you about later on. So while I'm improving upon this template here, I'm going to do the Q&A session with you guys. So question number one is, I want to start producing music, but I do not know music theory and I never played an instrument before. Is there any hope for me into becoming a good musician or into making good music? Yes, there is, and I say that because that was the position I was in 3 years ago, or almost 4 years ago now. But yeah, I started with no musical education, and I definitely did not know how to play a single instrument. The only thing I knew how to play was PlayStation. So yeah, that was my position, and I asked the same question, or how can I make it without the knowledge that I need? Because I told my friends, hey, I want to make music, and everyone said, well, how can you make music if you do not even know how to play? And yeah, it's a justified question because sure, yeah, like, how can you make music if you do not know how it works? Okay, then again, we live in the age of the internet, so if you have questions like this, you can go on Google and find answers. And what I found is that to write music, you do not need to learn, theory in the most deep and detailed way. You can just get away with the basics. So I went on Google and found this website called musictheory.net. I think it was 3 years ago, so I don't remember exactly. But yeah, there was this site which was great, and it had these tutorials and exercises on how to learn music theory. And I went there and I learned the most, the basics. So what a scale is and what a chord is and stuff like that, and how, to manage the harmony inside a track at very basic levels. And that was enough to set me up into starting to compose music. And as for not being able to play an instrument, okay, this is something I'm still not completely able to do myself. So there are still ways to write music thanks to software like FL Studio, for example, because you can input notes, you know, with the mouse and the keyboard, so you do not need to learn how to play an instrument to write music. However, if you know how to play, the keyboard and stuff like that, it's useful because you can then input the notes inside the FL Studio by recording them directly on the keyboard, and it's going to save you a lot of time. So it's a good thing to practice on the instrument, or rather practice on the piano, so that you can record the piano while you're working on your project. And you have to keep in mind, though, that if you do not know how to play an instrument, it's still okay, because you can still write music by keyboard and mouse. So that's not a huge problem. You can definitely start making music. Just go learn the basics of theory and get at it. Okay, question number two. Okay. Should I go to should I go to school for music production? Okay, this is another question I asked myself when I was just beginning with music, especially because I had no knowledge. So the thing is, like, these music production schools they are okay, and the problem is that they cost a lot. Like, when I was just starting out, I wanted to go to Berkeley in America, but turns out it costed like $9,000 a year, which is, in my position, impossible to pay or to bear. So I mean, without loans and stuff like that. So I really informed myself on which would be the advantages if I went and the disadvantages if I didn't. Turns out the advantages, there are quite a few actually, but they are not what I expected. I expected that if I went to these schools, I would, get out of those schools um, uh, as a, super mega great composer and producer. But actually, those schools, like, they teach you the techniques, and the history of music and all this stuff. But they I have the impression, and I have noticed from what I've seen, is that they do not teach you how to be an artist or a great composer. They teach you things based on other composers and what other artists did and stuff like that. And yeah, they teach you how to, the advanced techniques of music theory and composition, etc. But they do not teach you how to harness your creative intuition and how to use it to create groundbreaking or impressive and super expressive music, which is, you know, being able to write expressive, super impressive music, to me is more important than doing it politically correctly. Because I think that when a listener listens to music, he doesn't go into listening to a song with the expectation or with the need of listening to something which is completely pristine and perfect in the theoretical sense. He just wants, like, when a person listens to music, that person wants to be blown away, wants to feel empathy towards the feelings of the composer that the composer had when who was working on a track. Like, the music that really hits us is the music that is made, in a very creative and expressive way. So this is something that these schools, for the most part, do not teach you. And I see that, the people who go there, though, meet a lot of like-minded people. Like, I think Dream Theater, the legendary progressive metal band, was formed at Berkeley, between, classmates or something like that. And so I think that schools for music production are huge if you want to meet new people. But if you want to, become a really impressive composer and make great art, you can definitely do that even without going to these schools. And actually, going to these schools does not mean that you will automatically become that. So even if you go there, you still need to do the work to learn how to harness your creativity and how to compose groundbreaking music. So I'm not working on this template at all because I'm focused on talking. But yeah, so let's just talk, I guess. So question number 3, let's check it out. What DAW should I get? I heard Cubase is the best and FL Studio sucks and stuff like that. Yeah, actually, I think that DAWs are like, if you played the Pokemon games, when you begin every single Pokemon game, you are faced with a choice. Like, they give you 3 Pokeballs, one containing the fire type Pokemon, one containing the water, and one containing the grass type Pokemon. So these three Pokemons, they are usually not, one absolutely best than the other two. Like, if you pick one, you're going to be strong in certain. It's going to be strong on certain areas and weak on other areas. And with DAWs, I think it's the same thing. Like, FL Studio is, I think, the best though to sketch ideas, fast. But when it comes to, writing super articulated tracks and writing instrumental music, it might not be the best thing, because to set up a template like this is quite of a pain. While in Cubase, you can set up a huge template in a matter of minutes. It's really easy. And Cubase also has, more advanced, controls when it comes to sequencing MIDI and sequencing, the MIDI CCs like this. While FL Studio is quite basic when it comes to, writing organic music. But it's a legend for electronic music instead. So as you can see, like, it has, like, every DAW has its own point of strength and point of weaknesses. Like Cubase, I tried it once and I had to close it like a few hours later because sketching an idea in Cubase was hell to me. The piano roll was not as fast as if it is in FL Studio. And as for Logic and Ableton, I haven't tried those enough to know their advantages, but for sure they're going to have advantages that FL Studio and Cubase do not have, and they're going to have weaknesses that FL Studio and Cubase do not have. So, what DAW should you use? Well, this is a very subjective question. The most intelligent thing to do would be to try them out a little bit, and it also depends on the kind of genre you want to make. Like if the music you want to make is very much organic and mostly instrumental based, then maybe Cubase might be a good choice. But if you want to make like hybrid music with a lot of electronic effects and stuff like that, FL Studio is great for that. And I heard like Logic has some quite interesting audio editing things. Like I see, like there's a friend of mine who makes glitch electronic music with all this kind of weird processing that manage sounds and create them, rather recreate his sounds in a very creative way. And he does that with the basic functionalities of Logic, which in FL Studio are not even present. So I think Logic is great for audio editing, but I might be wrong. So I'd say try as many DAWs as you can and see which one is the one that feels the most intuitive and easy and comfortable to use for you. For me, it's FL Studio because of the way I write music, but for you it might be different. Does it mean that FL Studio is not the best DAW ever? It is for me, but it might not be for you. As for Cubase, it's not the best DAW for me, but it might be for someone else. So you should get the DAW that you find yourself comfortable with. You shouldn't pick Charizard because every single other person is choosing Charizard. Maybe you're a Blastoise guy, so choose the DAW or the Pokemon you find yourself liking the most. So question number 4. Do I need good gear and good VST to write good music? Absolutely not. Like, I see people doing this kind of reasoning all the time where they're like, oh, I need to get this ultimate MIDI keyboard and this ultimate speakers, KRQ speakers, and I need to get a new audio interface and the Gibson Les Paul, I don't know, the best guitar in the place before I write good music. No, that is completely wrong, because like I think I'm the best example of that. I think I make decent music. Like it's not the best ever, but it's decent. But my gear is actually pretty, embarrassing. Like really, I haven't like the only pro thing I have is this computer, which is kind of okay, but it's not even the best. As for my gear, I use a $150 audio interface, the worst guitar ever, and yeah, my speakers are actually incredibly bad. So having good gear actually helps you a lot, but it's not the gear that makes the music. I see a lot of people have the best gear but still write crappy music. Like you see these huge machines with a lot of super impressive controllers, and then you hear their music and they're like, what the fuck is this? So nope, you definitely do not need to have gear, although having good gear helps you. If you're a good composer and you have great gear, then you're going to make even greater music. But you do not need to have great gear to be a great composer. As for VST libraries, okay, those are a little bit like it's another conversation here. I have quite a few library here, but yeah, they are not too many, but there are a few, and they're good. And I think that the output of your music, rather your musical output, kind of depends on the input as well. So if you use crappy libraries, unless you're using like if you're making EDM or a genre that doesn't rely on how realistic the instruments you're using sound, then okay, maybe you can just use any kind of sounds. But if you're making orchestral music, which is a genre where the quality of your sample determines the quality of your arrangement, because it makes it sound more realistic and less muddy and stuff like that, then yes, you should invest into libraries because those help into making your music better. Like, I think that if I didn't use the libraries I use, if I didn't invest any money in the libraries I bought, um, and I used, crappy free libraries, my music wouldn't sound as good, And I see a lot of people being cheap about this, They go and ask, what are the best free libraries I can get? And when I see such questions, I always, I, I'm I feel bad, because you set up yourself for failure almost if you want to make orchestral music and want to rely on free libraries. Like, there are some cool free libraries for orchestral music out there, I'm sure, like the Eddie Raw orchestral library, but they are not as good as these libraries like Metropolis Arc or Storm Choir 2 or Cinematic Strings 2. Of course, these libraries cost quite some money, but I think that if you want to make music professionally, then you should not be scared about investing into your craft like this by, buying software and gear also that can improve your musical output. But of course, you should not take this to an extreme, because I see a lot of people that have like something like 50 libraries and a whole lot of libraries that do not know, how to use them best. Because I like, okay, some people pirate them or other people don't buy them, but the thing is that, the thing I notice is that when you have like 50 libraries, like people who have 50 libraries do not learn how to use one library at the best of its capabilities, and how to stretch that library to perform even better than it usually does. Rather, they learn to switch libraries. So say, for example, Metropolis Arc, I don't like the string sound because it doesn't have this kind of impact. So instead of learning how to make that kind of impact with Metropolis Arc, I am going to use another library of my 60 libraries I have in my, computer. So that sets you up to not becoming expert at any of the libraries you own. So having a lot of libraries is not necessarily good, because you do not learn how to use them in a very expert way. Every library is like a musical instrument. When you use it, the more you use it, the more tricks you learn on how to make it perform even better and get better results. So you should focus, like, you should definitely invest in your VST libraries, but you should focus on a few. You do not need to have 5 choir libraries and 6 strings libraries. I mean, you can, but I would only buy new libraries when the ones that you own are like you use them to exhaustion, and they are not they are still not good enough for you. So say, for example, I have Metropolis Arc, which I used for a few months, but then I noticed like Metropolis Arc is not that good with calm stuff, because the way this library was recorded is they recorded from forte to fortissimissimo. So there are no medio forte or other, calmer dynamics recorded into the library. So the library naturally does not is not fitted to go and to write, calm stuff. So I ended up buying Cinematic Strings 2 as well, because Cinematic Strings 2 is recorded in a more broad range of dynamics, and I can definitely write calm music with Cinematic Strings 2. So that's an example of when you should invest into the new library. But if you have some cool libraries already, use those without having to, spend money on other 40 libraries. Okay, so that was quite long. Sorry. Another question. Let's see if we have another one. Okay, yeah, we have 2 last questions. So the first one of the 2 is, what should I focus on learning first to make my music great? Sorry, what should I focus on learning first to make my music good? Is it mastering? Is it mixing, or something else? Ah, my God, this is a question that, like, this is a problem. Like, I see people doing a mistake here. Like they write their first tracks and they ask themselves, why doesn't the track sound professional like the tracks I would like to like the tracks I like. So the problem is that in the most cases their tracks do not sound professional, not because of mixing and mastering. Like mixing and mastering help, but for the most part, for what I see, beginners tend to have tracks that do not sound good because the arrangement is bad. The instrumentation is poorly chosen, or they weren't able to create a realistic mock-ups, and they do not know how to use VST and in a realistic way, by using multiple articulation and using, MIDI control commands like modulation wheel and expression and stuff like that. So they have this song that sounds okay, but quite robotic because there is no life that was breathed into it, So the problem there is that for the most part, I mean, like there might be some cases where the problem is mixing and mastering, but for the most part, the problem is that for beginners, their tracks sound bad at the arrangement stage, which is the first stage, Then there is the mixing stage and the mastering stage. These are three separated things. So the arrangement, say for example, we were making a cake, okay? Say for example, your track was a cake. The arrangement is, the body of the cake, the ingredients you put in, arranging a track will mean to choose the ingredients and choose the how to say it in English, the proportions, of the ingredients, how much strawberries should I put, how much flour, how much this, how much that, So it's when you pick every different ingredient to make your cake, and you start putting them up together. The mixing is when you have these ingredients, and thanks to the ingredients, the taste of the cake is already predetermined, because the taste is going to depend on what you put into the cake, into the arranging phase. So after the mixing phase comes in, and the mixing is when you bake the cake and you prepare the how to say it in English. I do not know the word, but yeah, when you prepare the substance of the cake, And the mastering is when you put the cake into the oven and you make it as crispy as it can be, the right way, so that when you eat it, you're going to, it's going to be crispy, and it's going to be nice to even, munch with your teeth. So the arrangement are the ingredients that gives the taste of the overall taste of the track or of the cake. The mixing is when you create the substance, like you mix the ingredients and you create a nice substance of for the cake to be baked. And when it comes to in terms of music, mixing is when you take all the different sounds in your track and you meld them together in a way that they do not, that they merge together cohesively in a nice way, and you can also apply cool effects to make your track more interesting, like dynamic panning and stuff like that. And then the mastering is when you have your track or your cake, which is already great, like it has its substance and it is cohesive, and it's quite great already. And if it's a cake, you have the substance, you take a spoon and you if you taste the substance of the cake, it's going to taste good already. And if you hear the track without mastering, it's going to sound good already. But with the mastering, you take that substance and you elevate it even further, and giving it a more defined shape, and making it more crisp and louder and more powerful and stuff, so that when the listener listens to the track, he hears the substance. Like I'm going a little bit overboard with this example, but yeah, when the listener listens to the track, he gets impacted even more. So other than the substance, there is also going to be a layer of awesomeness on top of everything. So that is mastering, okay? And So yeah, what you need to do if your track doesn't sound good is to ask yourself: is the substance good? If it is good, then it needs good mastering. If the substance is not good, are the ingredients good? You know, the instrumentation, is the instrumentation good? Did I choose the right proportions? Did I put the right amount of strings, the right amount of brass, blah blah? If not, then you need to work on your arrangement. And the thing to keep in mind is that yes, your arrangement should sound good even without mixing or mastering, you know? And a little secret here, most of my tracks uh, right now, like when I was a beginner, I didn't do them like this, but right now, most of my tracks, they do not have too much mixing into them, and the mastering is really basic, you know? If I exported my track without mixing and mastering, you're probably not you're probably still going to ask me like, wow, what did you do in the mixing to make it this clear, you know? The fact is that to make a track clearer, you just have to write a good arrangement. And I'm probably going to make a video about arranging, or a series of videos about arranging, because this is a really advanced subject. But yeah, work on your arrangement first and leave the mixing and the mastering for later. Okay, so the last question is wait, I lost it. Yeah. Okay, so experts say that using presets is bad. Should I focus on learning sound design first? Um, I mean, no. I mean, like, using presets is not necessarily bad, you know? There are a lot of, professional people and a lot of great artists who use presets. Like, there's nothing bad about it. But of course, if you create your sounds from scratch, your song is going to sound more original because it's going to contain sounds that are even more unique. But honestly, the people who are going to notice that you're not using presets, who are they? They are other composers, other producers who know, presets are a thing. Because if you say, people say, don't use Nexus, everyone uses Nexus, it's cheap, cheap presets, you should not use those presets, or else you're not a real producer. Well, honestly, like, I would bet that there are songs on the radio, or songs that people hear, and they do not notice the presets. And why? Because they are random listeners, Random listeners have no idea what goes into your track. What counts is the result, not what you put into it or how you write it, If the track sounds good, doesn't matter if you use presets or not. As long as your track sounds good, it's great. But if you want to become a more, prepared producer and composer, of course, if you learn how to make you learn sound design, and you learn how to design your own sounds or how to edit sounds, that is going to make you better. But it's not like if you use presets, you're not professional. Actually, you might be, how to say it in English, you might be sly, it might be an intelligent thing to do. If you say, for example, you're working for a client or a label and you have a deadline, which is like tomorrow, so you do not have the time to synthesize that particular sound you wanted to make. Rather, you go and you find the preset and boom, you're done, So it saves you time, and it's like collaborating with better sound designers than you, because you are then using sounds that were created from other sound designers that are probably better than you. So the result is going to be better compared to, I see people taking, having too much pride about it and wanting to make everything themselves. And then you listen to their music and it's like, again. So it's kind of, rather than doing things that sound like, sound that bad, maybe use presets, maybe start by using presets and then tweak the presets a little bit to get more expert, right? Dissect the presets and try to rebuild them from scratch and stuff like that, so that you can learn from the work of others, which is a more intelligent way to go about it, rather than going opening serum and doing stuff you do not understand just to get terrible results, So yeah, and yeah, I think that's all that I wanted to say. And by the way, do not listen to the haters on the forums who are like, oh no, you need to download this VST and create your own sounds, or else you're a pussy. Because honestly, those guys clearly, like when you get criticized in a forum like that, or when someone gives you advice on a forum or on a tutorial and stuff like that, go check out their music. If their music sounds great, then their advice is okay. Maybe you should listen to it, or their advice might be worth even considering. But if their music sounds like shit, which is something that occurs most of the time, like with critics on Reddit and on forums and videos, tutorials, uh, with the Mr. Know-it-alls, the thing that happens the most of the time is that they know it all, but their music sounds like shit. So you should not really listen to them. So definitely, like, getting started with presets, nothing bad about it, because yeah, and there was a quote about presets which made me laugh, and it's really relevant, which I'm going to put in the comments maybe, so you guys can see it there, because I don't remember by memory. But yeah, using presets is more than okay, and there are a lot of people who make a living at music who compose by using presets like that. So nothing wrong about it. It's actually smart. But it's best if you learn how to sound design later on. Leave that for later. As the first thing, what you need to learn is how to arrange, to become a good composer. But if you want to become a sound designer, of course, then start right away by designing your own sound. It's relative. But yeah, I hope this Q&A session helped you out, guys. And I hope that I recorded this video, because it might have been the case that I forgot to click record. But anyway, there is a I'm going to make a new tutorial this week. Last week I did not have time, unfortunately, but this week I should make a tutorial on French horns and brass, how to write epic brass lines and make them stand out in your track. So that tutorial should be up on Saturday, and I should be making it today for you guys. Anyway, I hope this video helped you out, and yeah, if you're new, if you're new here, this channel is a channel where I teach people how to make orchestral music based on what I learned. And yeah, so if you want to learn to make that kind of music, or if you want to, if you're interested in learning about the mindset you need to have a successful career in music, which is something I'm personally still working on myself, but I'm, quite, I achieved some quite good goals already. Yeah, stay around in this channel, because that is what I'm going to teach you guys. And by the way, if you're interested in having private lessons from me and stuff like that, and mentoring and yeah, stuff like that, I offer those kind of services on Patreon to those who pledge on Patreon to support this channel. And also it is thanks to the Patreon channel that I was able to buy this webcam here, which is making it possible for you guys to look at my pretty face. So yeah, that was it for this Q&A session, and let me know what you thought about it. And if you have questions for the next Q&A session, ask away in the comments, and I'll answer them in the next Q&A session. That's it for today. Alex out.